Picture this protest's rage in Iran, with thousands killed in a brutal crackdown. And President Trump warns of very strong action that could drag the U.S. into another Middle East conflict. Meanwhile, U.S. forces just captured Venezuela's leader, sending shockwaves through global oil markets and commodity supplies. Amid this chaos, silver prices shatter records, blasting past $92 an ounce. While investors flock to safe haven assets like never before, but here's the real urgency. BlackRock's massive silver ETF, SLV, is seeing explosive inflows, piling on hundreds of metric tons of physical silver as a hedge against the storm. Could these geopolitical fires propel SLV to unprecedented highs, turning silver into the ultimate crisis play for 2026? If you're not paying attention, you might miss the biggest wealth shift since the last global meltdown. Stick with me as we unpack this high-stakes story. It's not just news. It's your potential edge in a world on the brink. Let's break it down. Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel, where we dive deep into the wild world of precious metals, geopolitics, and big money moves that could shape your financial future. Today we're zeroing in on a topic that's screaming urgency. How escalating geopolitical tensions from Iran's deadly protests to U.S. strikes in Venezuela supercharging BlackRock's silver holdings. We're talking about silver's timeless role as a crisis hedge, with BlackRock's iShares Silver Trust, or SLV, absorbing massive inflows amid the turmoil. Recent data shows silver ETFs adding hundreds of metric tons in a short span, and with politics heating up, this could spike SLV to new all-time highs faster than you think. This isn't some abstract theory. It's happening right now. In January 2026, as silver rides a wave of fear and uncertainty to outperform even gold in volatility and gains. We'll connect the dots between Iran's chaos, U.S. military threats, and the flood of money into SLV. By the end, you'll understand why this is high-urgency news for investors. And I'll share actionable steps to position yourself. If you're into silver stacking ETFs, or just protecting your wealth in turbulent times, smash that like button and subscribe for more breakdowns like this. Let's get into the geopolitical firestorm first. To grasp why silver is exploding, we need to start with the global flashpoints driving the fear. Right now, the Middle East is a tinderbox, with Iran at the center. For over 2 weeks, massive protests have swept the country. Fueled by skyrocketing inflation, collapsing currency, the Iranian rial has plummeted against the U.S. dollar and widespread accusations of government corruption. Demonstrators are demanding regime change, and the response has been brutal. Reports from human rights groups indicate over 2,500 protesters killed in crackdowns, with more than 18,000 detained. This isn't just internal unrest. It's spilling over into international waters. Enter the U.S. President Trump has been vocal, encouraging the protesters and threatening very strong action if Iran continues the violence. He's hinted at military intervention, which could mean airstrikes, sanctions, or even boots on the ground. In retaliation, Iran has warned of strikes on U.S. military bases in neighboring countries like Iraq or Jordan. This back and forth echoes past conflicts like the U.S.-Iran tensions in the early 2020s. But with higher stakes now, oil routes in the Strait of Hormuz could be disrupted, choking global energy supplies and spiking prices everywhere. But Iran isn't the only hotspot. Just days ago, U.S. forces conducted strikes in Venezuela, capturing President Nicolas Maduro in a bold operation. This has roiled Latin American politics and commodity markets. Venezuela's vast oil reserves are now in play, but the move has broader implications for metals. Venezuela, along with allies like Russia and China, influences global supply chains for critical minerals. The capture has heightened fears of retaliatory actions, perhaps from Iran-backed proxies, or even cyber attacks on us. Infrastructure. These aren't isolated events, they're interconnected. Trump's administration is also pushing aggressive foreign policies elsewhere, like signaling flexibility on Iran but maintaining hard lines on trade with China and India. Add in ongoing wars. Russia-Ukraine drags on with no end in sight. Gaza remains volatile, and even murmurs about Greenland's resources in US-Denmark talks are stirring Arctic tensions. Geopolitics isn't just news headlines. It's a direct threat to economic stability. When leaders rattle sabers, markets react with fear. And that's where safe haven assets like silver shine. Think about it historically. During the 1979 Iranian Revolution, oil shocks sent gold and silver soaring. In 2020, amid pandemic chaos and US-China trade wars, silver jumped over 50%. Now in 2026, with multiple fronts open, the uncertainty is amplified. Inflation is sticky. Central banks are criticizing US attacks on Fed independence, and global deficits are ballooning. This cocktail of risks is why investors are panicking and pouring money into hedges that protect against currency devaluation, supply disruptions, and outright war. So why silver? In times of crisis, investors flock to assets that hold value when everything else crumbles. Gold gets most of the spotlight as the classic safe haven. But silver is the underdog powerhouse, often called gold on steroids, because it amplifies moves in both directions. Unlike stocks or bonds, which can tank in recessions or geopolitical scares, silver has dual appeal. It's a monetary metal like gold. But over 50% of its demand comes from industry, making it resilient even in growth slowdowns. As a crisis hedge, silver thrives on fear. Geopolitical tensions erode trust in fiat currencies, like the US dollar, which is under pressure from de-dollarization efforts by BRICS nations. When wars threaten, investors buy silver to preserve wealth. For example, during the Russia-Ukraine invasion in 2022, silver surged as safe haven buying kicked in. Now, with Iran threatening US bases and Venezuela's oil in flux, similar dynamics are at play. Any escalation could disrupt mining in key regions. Mexico and Peru produce about 40% of global silver. And political instability, they're tied to US policies, could slash supply. But silver's hedge power goes deeper. It's a bet against inflation and currency weakness. With the Fed pausing rate cuts, amid sticky prices, projections show rates at 3.4%. By year, silver acts as an inflation shield. Unlike paper money, which central banks can print endlessly, silver is finite. Supply deficits have plagued the market for years, the Silver Institute reports. Cumulative shortages of over 820 million ounces since 2021. With another 30 million ounce deficit forecast for 2026, China's export bans, starting this January, controls 60 to 70% of refined silver, creating regional squeezes that drive prices wild. Industrial demand adds rocket fuel. Silver is essential for solar panels, up 14% demand this year, EVs, 5G tech, AI chips, and electronics. As the world pushes green energy amid tensions, think US tariffs on Chinese solar, silver's utility skyrockets. In a crisis, this dual role means silver doesn't just hold value. It appreciates faster than gold. Last year, silver outperformed gold 2-to-1. Up 147% to over $90, while gold rose only 65 to 70% to $4,300 plus. Critics say silver's volatility is a risk. Prices can crash on de-escalation, like recent dips when Trump signaled restraint on Iran, but in prolonged uncertainty, it's a winner. Backwardation in futures, where near-term prices exceed long-term, signals immediate shortages, forcing shorts to cover and sparking squeezes. Experts like Peter Schiff warn silver is running out, predicting $100 soon. In this environment, silver isn't just a hedge. It's a potential wealth multiplier. Now let's zoom in on BlackRock, the $14 trillion giant steering the silver boom. Their iShares Silver Trust SLV is the world's largest physically backed silver ETF, holding hundreds of millions of ounces in secure vaults. As of mid-January 2026, SLV's assets under management hover around $45 minus $47 billion. With over 16,242 metric tons of silver in trust, that's a staggering amount. Equivalent to years of mining output, recent inflows are the real story. Amid these tensions, silver ETFs have seen surges, with hundreds of metric tons added in short periods. For SLV specifically, tons in trust have climbed steadily, reflecting billions in fresh capital. Why? Institutional and retail investors are using SLV as an easy entry point, no need to store bars yourself. You get exposure to spot prices minus a tiny 0.5% fee. BlackRock's experts like Evie Hambro are outright bullish. They see silver's upward trajectory in 2026. Driven by industrial demand and supply tightness, SLV tracks the LBMA silver price closely, and its performance mirrors the metal's rally up 147% in 2025. With shares trading around $78 minus 84, but inflows tell the urgency. When Iran threats hit headlines, safe haven buying floods in. Global ETPs gathered a record $2.3 trillion last year, with precious metals seeing massive shares. For silver, this means BlackRock is actively buying physical bars to back new shares. Tightening the market further, BlackRock isn't just passive, their scale moves markets. With related ETFs like SLVP for miners up 200% last year, they're positioned for the full ecosystem. In crises, SLV becomes a go-to. Low costs, liquidity, and no counterparty risk make it superior to futures or unallocated accounts. Here's where it gets urgent. These geopolitical storms are directly boosting BlackRock's silver holdings and setting SLV up for explosive gains. Iran's protests and U.S. threats create fear premiums. Investors anticipate oil disruptions. Inflation spikes and dollar weakness, driving money into silver. Venezuela's capture adds supply fears. Latin America's instability could hit mining, where 40% of silver comes from. Result? SLV inflows surge as a crisis hedge. Recent metrics show silver ETFs adding substantial tons amid the news.
I go think hundreds in weeks.
As funds like SLV absorb the demand. This creates a feedback loop. More inflows mean BlackRock buys more physical silver, reducing available supply and pushing prices higher. With China's bans isolating markets, localized squeezes could send spot prices to $100 plus. Politics amplifies this. Trump's tariffs on critical minerals, Fed independence attacks, and BRICS dollarization make silver a strategic asset. If Iran escalates, say base strikes or oil blockades, safe haven flows could double SLV's momentum. Analysts predict volatility but upside. Goldman Sachs warns of sharp swings. While bulls, I won $150 if deficits worsen. This is high-urgency news because de-escalation is fragile. Trump's restraint on Iran dipped prices briefly, but renewed threats could reverse it overnight. For SLV, that means potential new high shares could hit $100 plus if silver does, turning modest investments into big wins. Framing this as breaking news, the world is one tweeter strike away from a silver supernova. Forecasts for 2026 are bullish. Bank of America sees averages at $56, but peaks at $65. Others like Robert Kiyosaki eye $200 in extreme scenarios. Geopolitics is the wild card. If Iran boils over or Venezuela retaliates, expect 10 to 20% jumps in days. Risks exist. Fed hikes could strengthen the dollar, pressuring metals short term. But fundamentals dominate. Deficits, industrial boom, and endless uncertainty scream by. This isn't speculation. It's survival investing in a fractured world. For investors, this is your call to action. SLV offers easy entry by shares like stock. Diversify 5 to 10% of your portfolio. Stack physical for long-term hold or explore miners for leverage. Monitor news, Fed meetings, Iran updates, China exports. Use apps for alerts on price moves. Don't wait, tensions could ignite any time. Consult pros, but act decisively. Silver's crisis hedge roll, boosted by BlackRock's might, could be your shield. Thanks for tuning in. This geopolitical silver surge is the story of 2026. If it fired you up, like, subscribe, and comment. Will silver hit $100 this month? Check the description for sources and tools. Stay vigilant. Stay invested. See you next time.